Greetings, salutations, everybody. Welcome to AMC Movie Talk for movie fans, the best damn movie-related show on the internet. My name is John Campy. I'm the editor-in-chief over here at AMC Movie News, and this is a little bit different. This is pre-recorded. Don't worry, I do have questionable personal hygiene habits, but I have not worn the same shirt 3 or 4 days in a row. This is actually pre-recorded. As we announced earlier this week, AMC Movie Talk is getting ready to move into Phase 2. A lot of very cool things about to happen with AMC Movie Talk and AMC Movie News, but we're starting by moving into a brand new studio for AMC Movie Talk on Monday, September 30th. Will be our first show from there, and we just got a lot of things to do to get ready, so today's show is actually being pre-recorded. Joining me, first of all, sitting to my immediate right, she's the editor of Movie News for AMC Movie News, Miss Amy Rose Eisenbach. Amy Rose, how you doing?
Doing well, thanks. Happy to be in Studio B today.
Studio B! Also sitting to Amy Rose's right, she is one of the hosts here at AMC Movie Talk, Miss Erin Darling. Erin, how are you?
I'm wonderful. Hello, everyone.
And let's get right into it by starting with this. The first question today comes to us from Alex Bartz, who writes, "Hey guys and gals, love the show. All these rumors about Bryan Cranston as Lex Luthor are awful. I personally think he's too old to be Lex in this DC universe. I think they should get someone younger and bigger. So Lex is actually kind of terrifying when he wants to be. Maybe Aaron Eckhart? I'm not sure. What do you guys think? Thanks." Amy Rose?
Yes.
Let's start with you. What do you think about this?
I would love to start this one. Alex, have you watched Breaking Bad? Are you going to tell me that Bryan Cranston is not terrifying? I am the one who knocks. He is the man. He is every color and shade of terrifying in that. You really start to question his moral code, but you still love him. He's an evil guy, but you love him because he's so complex and incredible, and he is such an amazing actor. And, you know, he has this hit TV show, but he's also been in a lot of films as well. And I mean, but to say he's not terrifying, he is the epitome of terrifying. He is so incredible. Watch that show if you haven't. The finale is coming up on Sunday, and I feel like I should wear all black and mourn it because it's seriously one of the best TV shows. But Bryan Cranston is terrifying and amazing. He's everything you want him to be and more. So I don't think that's really true.
Aaron?
Bryan Cranston, fantastic. Aaron Eckhart, also a great villain, but I think the more important thing here is that I don't believe that with casting choices we should let age, race, hair color, body type limit the way that we see characters, because I think there are two things that are important when it comes to thinking about a character and who could play them. One, the story, the script. Two, what is the character's essence at that time when the story and script is taking place? As long as you're true to those two things, I think that whoever you choose to play that role could embody that if you're thinking about the story, the script, and what that character needs to be at that moment in time. That being said, I think he'd be a fantastic villain, but I also think there are other actors that could also do a good job as Lex Luthor if you're so opposed to him.
And Aaron Eckhart has already been Two-Face, and, you know, he was great as Harvey, but I don't know, I'd rather see someone else really make that shine in the DC universe, personally.
And really, the point's rather moot, right? Because we know that he's not going to be.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Bryan Cranston is not going to be Lex Luthor. He's come out and said that, so we can put that one away. But I gotta say, we could do much worse than a Bryan Cranston as Lex Luthor. I mean,
of course.
Lex Luthor is not going to be a guy who throws a punch at Superman. It doesn't matter if he's physically big, intimidating. Is he intimidating in life? And we know Bryan Cranston can go to that very, very dark place and be maniacal and come across as genius and terrifying. I think, look, I've always known we weren't going to see Bryan Cranston as Lex Luthor, but I've also known that I would have been completely okay with him being Lex Luthor at the same time.
Of course.
Totally okay with it. So, I mean, hey, it's cool that you think differently. I'm sure there are a lot of people that wouldn't have liked to see Bryan Cranston, but the dude came very close to just winning another Emmy. If it wasn't for Jeff Daniels, he would have had another Emmy.
Who is amazing in Newsroom.
But I mean, we're talking about a world-class actor.
He's incredible.
Who's
Very,
so good.
very
and
talented.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the second question today. The second question comes to us from Brian Bruckheimer. Or Buchmeier, or however. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name, Brian. Hey all, love the show and you guys are awesome. Thank you so much, Brian, even though I just mispronounced your name. I have some questions for you. With films based on lesser-known comics like The Losers, Scott Pilgrim, and Kickass not being huge box office successes, do you think studios will shy away from non-mainstream comic book movies, or will they continue to make them based on the popularity of the comic book genre in general? Also, what are some non-mainstream comics you'd like to see made into movies? I would personally love to see Umbrella Academy and maybe Danger Girl. Thanks. Well, I mean, started with Losers, Scott Pilgrim, and Kickass. These are actually all movies I really like. I really like The Losers. I know not a lot of people did, but some of us did. I really liked Kickass. I really liked Scott Pilgrim, obviously. But no, I think you're right. I think the fact that you have these really lesser-known comic book things not faring well, relatively speaking, not faring super well. I mean, I think it's one of the reasons they kind of pull the plug on the Runaways, and we talked about Runaways on yesterday's installment of AMC Mail Bag. But yeah, I mean, look, just because something is a comic book doesn't mean people are going to rush out and see it. People rush out to see Batman in record numbers because they all know Batman. People rush out to see Man of Steel to the tune of $600-700 million because we all know Superman. Now, every once in a while, you'll get a lesser-known comic book character that might do well. Blade is a great example of that, although one of the very rare examples of that. But that's because Blade had a lot of other things going for it. You know, Twilight hadn't killed the vampire genre yet. So at the time, doing like a badass vampire hunter kind of thing, who's he's the daywalker, all that kind of stuff, that appealed. So it had appeal even beyond those who read the comics. It's difficult finding comics that can do that without that wider knowledge base and appeal. So I think you're right. I think that will cause a lot of people to shy away. As far as the second part of the question, lesser knows, we can have like a 2-hour-long discussion about that. I will say that a very lesser-known comic that just started, that already has a movie deal now, Daymen, is that movie is coming. I finally read the first issue. Only one issue's out, and I bought it and I read it the other day on my Comixology app, and it's great. So I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Because you didn't know originally. I remember I bought it.
Oh, did you buy it?
I bought it, and I think you sold it because you're like over vampires, and now you read it and you loved it, right?
Oh, I did.
Awesome.
I liked it a lot. Yeah, I was just. By the way, I got to recommend this. This is not AMC. Android app show. But if iOS or Android app, get the Comixology app. It's great because I'm just laying in bed one night. It's like, hey, that's right. There's that Damon movie I was thinking about. I'm just gonna buy it and read it right now. Boom, and I read it. And
your wife loves the app too, doesn't she?
Oh yeah, she actually spends all my money on that app actually because it's connected to my account. Anyway, Aaron, let's go to you. What do you think about studios and do you think that? Not stellar box office performances from Losers, Scott Pilgrim, and Kick-Ass. Do you think that it keeps studios at bay when it comes to lesser-known comic book characters?
No, I don't think so because Kick-Ass made most of its money on the back end. The DVD sales were through the roof. It did extremely well.
But let's keep that in perspective. Our terminology for through the roof is not what it was 5 years ago.
That's true.
Like Kick-Ass didn't make $20 million on DVD. I mean, so we got to keep that in mind.
And I know that's a little bit of a gamble when it comes to a studio, but I also think that we'd be robbing ourselves of a lot of great opportunities if you thought of everything in terms of purely money making. And I know they're in the business of making money, but I'd also like to think that people that make movies are also in the business of making art. That being said, when I think of art, I think of Plastic Man, who is DC, a lesser known comic. But what an interesting character and what a fascinating origin story that could make. This is a guy who was involved with a gang. Somehow something went wrong, gets saved by a monk, spent time at the monastery, discovers this weird power that he has. What an interesting story that I would love to see play out in some aspect on the big screen sooner or later. I also have been dying for an Akira reboot, but not at the sake of compromising what Akira is supposed to be. And if that means going indie or low budge, go indie, go low budge. If that means a movie with subtitles, I'm okay with that. I don't think that Zac Efron should be in it, and I don't think we should westernize Akira if we get a reboot, but I would love to see that happen as well.
What about you, Amy Rose?
The first part of the question. So Kick-Ass did just get a sequel. So it obviously wasn't too much of a colossal failure. While all these films, might not crush at the box office, soar through the roof, they aren't necessarily giant failures either, especially if a sequel is able to be made. And as Aaron mentioned, there are other aspects after, in post that can help raise, but DVDs are not where they used to be anyway. That's why everyone's going digital.
I always like to point people, I don't know if you guys watch, we talked about this in the show the other day, I don't know if you guys watch South Park, but one of the best episodes of South Park ever is the one where Kyle's dad buys the Blockbuster. It's a great, if you haven't seen that episode, find it online. It's amazing. It's like the whole episode is basically, Kyle's dad's so excited about Blockbuster. They sold it to me for only $10,000. It's like, Dad, nobody rents or buys DVDs anymore. Nobody. And it's all about this thing about how it becomes a play on The Shining. Because Kyle's dad is in the Blockbuster and he starts going crazy because nobody comes in there. And he starts seeing ghosts of movie renters past. And if you haven't seen it, really quite great.
They're clever, that team.
They are.
But I have to say the rental thing is a nostalgic thing about movies that I will miss.
Yeah.
I feel
that
out a movie.
Same way about books. I love the feel of
Me
book
too.
and the smell. But in terms of like a lesser known, nobody really knew about V for Vendetta until they made a film. And that series is incredible. And it's very political, very cool, very badass. Love it. I would love to see them do more. And another one, I love Batwoman. Kate Kane is so cool. Not only is she like very similar to Batman, she's an ex-military, she's a lesbian, which we don't have a lot of those in, popular mainstream, which is why they'll never make it. But they should show a little more diversity. And she's a badass, has all this training, and had this chance encounter, is trained by Nightwing. It could really fit into this universe really well. So I would love to see
Have you heard
that.
about the new controversy about Batwoman? That the writers from Batwoman in DC, if I'm remembering this correct, just quit and left because DC would not allow them to have her get married to her girlfriend.
Really?
In the comics, yeah. So they walked. They left. So that's
Are we still in medieval times, people?
little controversy
Evolve.
going on in the DC universe. All right, let's move on to the next question. The next question that we have comes to us from David C.
No, come on, do it. Do it.
Chatsatstamitz. Dude, I'm sorry. So Walt Disney had a philosophy regarding sequels, and it came about after his Three Little Pigs sequel flopped. He said, "You can't top pigs with pigs." My question to you is this. Is Pixar being a bit hasty in creating so many sequels to their films? Obviously, all the Toy Story sequels have done marvelously, but what about the rest? Cars 2, Monsters U, and soon Finding Dory. I know John has expressed his eagerness for a second Incredibles, but should Pixar embrace Walt's viewpoint and stop trying to top pigs with pigs, so to speak? I enjoy sequels as much as anybody else, but if Pixar announces just one more sequel, I'm going to start wondering if they have any more clever original stories left in them to bring to life. The original stories are always what they're so genius at after all. Here's the thing. You kind of bring it up, David, as a throwaway point, but I think it's very, very significant. Toy Story 2 is one of the greatest films. I'll put in my top 100 films of all time. Toy Story 3 is in my top 100 films of all time. These are films that all have like Rotten Tomatoes, 100% ratings at Rotten Tomatoes consistently. They're number one critically rated films each year that a Toy Story is released. Number one critically rated film of the years. So there kind of goes the notion that you can't do sequels and do them great. I also thought Monsters U was really good. And it made Pixar a lot of money. Now, was it as good as the first Monsters, Inc.? No, I don't think so. But I believe it is a fallacy to believe that if you're going to make a sequel, it's got to be better than the original. No, it doesn't. You just make a great movie. There's a lot of debate about whether some people think Godfather 2 is one of the greatest films ever, is the best of the Godfather series.
It is.
A lot of people think Godfather 1 is the best of the series. But regardless of what you think, even if you think Godfather 1 was the best of the series, you can't deny that Godfather 2 was a movie worth making. It's one of the greatest films ever made, right? So, I mean, so even if you don't think it's as good as Godfather 1, are you going to tell me that because it wasn't as good as one of the greatest films ever made in the history of cinema, that it wasn't worth making? Of course it was. Now, we've got Finding Dory coming, and a lot of people are very excited about that. Cars 2 was a bit of a letdown, absolutely, but the original Cars was kind of bad, too.
Bless you.
Pardon me. I felt that one coming on. So, to me, it's all about this. Wonder and beauty and creativity come from the stories that you tell. And if you can tell a great story with characters that we already know, then more power to then that's great. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It's not the original 5-minute concept that makes a movie original. It's the 2-month-long script writing and coming up with your story and adjusting it and making your plot devices and all this kind of. That's what makes a story beautiful and original and true and gives us this real character and identity. And whether you use characters that you've used before to tell that story or whether you use a new batch of characters, I think is irrelevant. I think it really comes down to, is this a good movie? With or without, whichever characters you have, is it a continuation of another story or is it a standalone story? Irrelevant. Is it a great movie and is it good? And I think you can do that with sequels. I have no problem with that. Yes, I would like to see Pixar do more ups and do more whatever, more original standalone films. Absolutely. But I got no problem with it. And I think Walt, when he made that statement, was just stinging a little bit from a flop. So I mean, that's the way I say it. Anyway, Amy Rose, how do you see all this?
Up that first 10 minutes. I mean,
Oh,
if
so
you didn't
good.
cry, you have no soul. I'm pretty convinced.
I don't think I cried.
Come on, Aaron.
Oh,
It was
come
a
on.
good movie.
No
but
soul
come
in
on.
this girl. Watch out for her.
Masterpiece.
I can hold it together.
Anyway, so yeah, all the sequels that you mentioned, I mean, as you pointed out, I mean, sure, Toy Story did marvelously well, but so did the other films. They made so much money. Monsters U, I think, was #1 at the box office 3 weekends in a row or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, they make a lot of money because...
And they were good. It was
and
good.
they're good because it brings generations together. Parents are happy to go bring their children. Children are really happy. It has a lot of adult humor. So, I mean, it's quite a formula, and they're going to just keep making sequels. If it makes a lot of money, it's going to keep happening. I mean, that's just a reality of this industry is, when they find something that works, they want to just continue bringing that down the path. But yes, I mean, I loved Incredibles. I loved it. And I would like to see a sequel. And a lot of the times, we've mentioned so many times, when you love these characters, you want to continue the story. You want to revisit them. And, Toy Story was fabulous, and Cars 2 may be disappointed, but I also found Monsters U really charming. And, Finding Dory, I am excited about that. Finding Nemo was incredible. And Ellen DeGeneres just keep swimming. I mean, it's so charming. So I'm really excited about that. But, it's a very formulaic system. When something works, they're going to keep doing it up. But I always use Hangover 2 as the example. Hangover 1 was such a success that they tried to legitimately duplicate
verbatim, point by,
and that's why it didn't work,
Yeah.
because they were just like, oh, okay. Instead, even though 3, a lot of us didn't love it, I didn't, at least they were trying to reinvent the storyline and develop the characters more, opposed to literally showing us the same thing. So that's how I like my sequels.
I actually liked part 3 a little bit.
I liked it more than 2,
Yeah, I did.
but I didn't think it was that great, and especially compared to 1. So that's, if they continue to develop the story, continue to go that way, I'm all for it. But if it's literally just recycling the same things for this new segment, I'm not into it.
Aaron?
I don't think that creativity and the fact a movie is a sequel is mutually exclusive. I think that they can coexist. Maybe not necessarily in The Hangover 2, but I think that sequels aren't always a bad thing. Monsters U made over 700 mil. Cars 2 made over 550 mil.
Yeah.
So you can't really say that these films aren't exactly success. They're not bombing at the box office, they're doing really well. But when it comes to artistic integrity or originality, that's a different question. And I would love to see new content, but that doesn't mean that a sequel can't be original or creative in its own way.
All right, let's move on to the next question. Next question comes to us from Jermaine Walker, who writes, greetings to you all. I'm a total fan of your show, and I love what you guys do, so please keep up the good work. Thank you so much, Jermaine. I'm writing because I thoroughly enjoyed the recent movie, Now You See Me. I was shocked by how great this movie was and the stellar cast that supported it. I don't know if any awards were achieved from this movie, but this was a well thought out and put together film, probably one of the best I've seen, actually. Towards the end, they give you hints of a second movie, but I was wondering, did it do well enough to deserve a second movie? I don't remember there being a lot of publicity for it. Anyways, thanks and be blessed. Jermaine, first of all, that movie sucked. I really, really disliked. I'm glad you liked it. I'm really glad you liked it. More power to you for liking it. She liked it too. I thought Now You See Me is just terrible. I thought
haven't
it was
seen it yet.
Poorly conceived, poorly executed, just poorly done. Just a bad movie. And now, as far as we know, I believe they are doing a sequel. Plans are already in motion. They've got everything's back on track, and they are making a second one. So rejoice for those of you who are fans of the film. I will lament and drink myself to a happy stupor. No, I don't actually drink. But I didn't like the film myself. But for those of you who are fans of it, good news, it is coming. Amy Rose, you did like the film.
I did like it, and as a moviegoer.
By the way, that's your camera. I know. I should have told
The
you
whole
sooner.
time?
I should have told you sooner.
I asked you before we started filming, John. I asked you.
And it's like, I wonder if people are going to think maybe Amy Rose is blind because she's doing everything
I
like
asked
this.
you, John, and you told me the middle one.
I don't
Sorry,
remember that.
guys.
Sorry.
His fault. He's trying to hide me from you, but I love you. I love you. Anyway, Now You See Me. As a complete cinephile, I am willing to go on a journey with a filmmaker and give up certain liberties to have a fun ride. It was a glossy thriller, heist magic. What more do you want? The acting was solid. The cast had so much fun together. You could feel it. Still remains one of my most favorite junkets I've ever done. It was in New Orleans, and it was so wonderful, and you could just feel the passion and the chemistry of them working together. And sure, it wasn't a perfect film. Most films, especially being a writer, of course I can find the flaws in almost anything, but I'm willing to push that aside and have a fun time. Beautifully it was shot. Louis Leterrier did a really good job, and I thought it was a really fun time. And yes, all the people are coming back, all the peeps, and I think Louis will be back at the helm as well. And I think most of us enjoyed it because we like fun times at the movies.
I love how you just romanticized that whole movie right there.
It was good.
You were selling it to me.
I like
do.
fun
That's
times
my
at
girl.
the movies. If it gave me a fun time,
I was
liked
actually
it.
planning on seeing that movie.
This is the guy that loved Daredevil. Ayo.
But the thing that I think is important to realize about this movie is that it costs $75 million to make. It's expected, with everything domestic and international, to bring in about $275 million at least. So, I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer. Yeah, it's getting a sequel. It did a lot better than people expected it to.
Especially overseas.
And they did set it up to have a sequel, really. When you watch the film, they set it up to be a sequel because misery loves company. Anyway, let's move on. I know a lot of you guys like it. I know a lot of guys like it. All right, let's move on to the next question today. And the next question today comes to us from John Boone, who writes, "Hey guys, big fan of the show and watch daily. My question for you guys is, how do you think they will introduce Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch? Will they wait until Avengers: The Age of Ultron, or just maybe could they introduce them through Marvel's new TV show, Marvel Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.? What are your thoughts on how well they introduced the brother and sister duo? Thanks, guys." Well, I think it is extremely unlikely that you will see them introduced in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Joss Whedon and Kevin Feige have come out and said they are pretty much going to keep those universes separate. I mean, they live in the same universe, yes, but they're really going to keep the Marvel TV world separate from the Marvel movie world. And the quote Joss gave was pretty much this. He goes, why give people for free something on TV that we want them to go and buy a movie ticket for later? And he makes a good point. So for that reason alone, and for the fact that they want the TV show to have its own creative freedom to kind of move in certain directions, that's what they're doing. We know they're going to introduce them definitely in Age of Ultron. We're not going to see Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch, I believe, until Avengers 2. That's where we're going to be first introduced to them, because I don't think the negotiations with the actors are for anything else. It's too late to put them in Thor. It's too late to put them in the new Captain America. They're already shooting Guardians of the Galaxy. So, I mean, really what you're left with is introducing them in Age of Ultron. But the bottom line for me is I don't care. I don't like the idea. You know me, Avengers, greatest comic book movie of all time. That's my opinion. But I don't. I'm turned off by the fact that they're using Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch. I don't think they should be using Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch. I know they have the right to use those characters because of a special deal they have in divvying up the Marvel characters and which ones belong in the X-Men universe and which ones don't. And, Fox and Marvel are allowed to use Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch. I think that's stupid. And I think it's really stupid that Marvel is using them. And you know me, I'm a huge Marvel Joss Whedon fanboy, and I think it's absolutely ludicrous and ridiculous. I hate that they're doing it. And maybe it'll blow me away, and I'll say, wow, that was awesome. But I'll still think it was stupid that they did it in the first place. Just my thought. Anyway, Amy Rose, what do you think?
I mean, first and foremost, I have trust in Joss Whedon. I do. I think that these were some of his favorite characters growing up. Look, I'm looking in the right camera. These were some of his favorite characters growing up, as he stated. And I think that, sure, he's going to have to do a little bit of a dance. And yes, I agree with you. It's a dumb dance. Part of the reason I love the characters so much is because I'm a diehard X-Men fan. That is first and foremost. And, Magneto is one of my favorite villains of all time. Such a complex, layered, amazing character. And to take away, a really big part of their history is kind of hurting them in essence. But I do really have faith in Whedon. I love, that he's a diehard fan that really translates passion. And he also has this brilliant comedic element that he always incorporates. And, Iron Man's going to recruit them. He's going to obviously have a very, very larger part, especially since Hank Pym's not going to be in this one, which I'm very disappointed about. I really wanted Ant-Man to be in here. But yeah, I think it will be that way. We know Wanda and Hawkeye are homies. Like, it's not going to be that difficult once they're in. It's just going to be interesting to not have that backstory. But I do have a lot of faith in Whedon, and they are really, really cool characters. So we'll see what happens with the twinsies.
Aaron, what do you think?
I agree with Amy Rose there. I love X-Men, and I like these characters a lot. I think it would be very dumb for them to try to introduce them to a TV audience and then bring them to the cinematic universe. I really don't want to see that happening. I'm not ready for that type of crossover. I'm just not. Maybe I'm old school, but I'm not ready for that. And here's my other interesting thing about these two characters is that because of the rights issue and because it's kind of difficult to kind of figure out where they fit into this cinematic universe, I mean, Joss Whedon likes to kill off his characters, so why not introduce them and just, kill off the ones you're not sure about the rights, just
kill off
take care of them.
If you gotta kill someone off, take one for the team, homie, just saying.
I don't think, the one thing I'll disagree with you on it is, and you weren't trying to make a point about it, but I don't think we're going to see Tony Stark recruiting anybody. I think the only person who recruits,
you don't think so?
No, I think the only person who recruits in the Avengers is Nick Fury. Nick Fury is the only guy who recruits into the Avengers. So I think we'll probably see that happening. But, I mean, obviously, we're going to see a very big role for Tony Stark in this one because he's going to create Ultron.
Yeah, he sure is.
All right, last question of the day comes to us from Louis Lorque, who writes, "Hey, John and crew, this is Louis." Oh, how you doing, Louis? I was reading an article, and it was talking facts about Captain Jack Sparrow, and it got me thinking, since this character's legend, even in the movies, is larger than life, what would you think about doing a story about how he became who he is? I know John doesn't like the idea of prequels because, who they are and that they survive. I have heard everything from his sister was turned into a cat and he almost had his hand cut off. It says that he was born on a pirate ship in the middle of a typhoon and that he ran from home because his grandma was mean to him. I would be interested in seeing this tale. What do you think? Not going to mince words, dude. No. I don't know. No, I don't want to see the backstory. We don't need to see the backstory to every freaking person out there. Now, I see the appeal because Captain Jack Sparrow, despite how bad the last number of Pirates films has been, he's a fascinating character. But he is fascinating because of who he is, not because of who he was. That's my opinion at any rate. And besides, let's be honest here. You know that I believe no actor is bigger than the character. You can replace any actor in anything. I believe that, and you can make it good. But let's be honest here. Nobody's interested in seeing a Captain Jack Sparrow that isn't being played by Johnny Depp. You could make it, and it could be awesome, maybe even better than Johnny Depp ever did it. But the entire appeal right now to the movie-going audience is Johnny Depp is Captain Jack Sparrow. Now, whether that's right or wrong is an issue for debate, and that can be brought up. But from a business point of view, if I'm financing a film, I don't know that I want a Captain Jack Sparrow that doesn't have Johnny Depp because I don't know that people are interested in a Captain Jack Sparrow without Johnny Depp. So from a personal point of view, hell no, I don't want to see a prequel to Captain Jack Sparrow. From a business point of view, I don't think anybody would want to spend the money because I think it's a money-losing proposition. Just my thought. Aaron, what do you think? Would you think a prequel about the character and the legend of Captain Jack Sparrow is something that could work, or would you even want it?
I feel a little bit conflicted about this topic because I love origin stories, and I don't consider them prequels. I consider them origin stories. I like to think of them as their own thing, independent of the movies, because I think an origin story is more about telling the story of the specific character. However, the things listed in your comment, Louis, about the origin story are not things I'm interested in seeing on the big screen. If we're going to do an origin story about a character like Jack Sparrow, I would love it to be a little more interesting and adventurous and exciting and sexy, if you will. But the running away because grandma was mean, I really don't want to see that on the big screen.
Dude, mean grandmas are terrifying.
I know.
Mean grandmas
Mean
are
moms are the worst villains. That's always been my stance.
That's
like Carrie, Monique. She won Academy Award for playing a mean mom really well. So mean grandmas are even worse. But that's basically where I stand on the issue. So I'm a little conflicted because I do like the idea technically, but I don't really like the elements of the story or where it might go with this character.
Amy Rose?
I'm not conflicted at all. Please stop making these movies. Stop making these movies. I get it. They're a cash cow. You're going to keep going. But, you already own the universe, Disney. Do we really have to keep going? So, yeah, I love Johnny Depp. He's still, even though, he's had these physically transformative roles. And sure, I'd like to see him go more back to the dramatic, the Donnie Brascos of the world. Sure, there's so many amazing films. But... yeah, I'm done. I'm done with this franchise. I'm done with this character. The first one was great. And after that, they should have just stopped where they were ahead. And there's a fifth coming. So get your healthy dose of Captain Jack Sparrow there and call it a day. No more Pirates films for me, please. Thanks.
I'm gonna be on the odd man out sort of thing here.
No, John, don't do it.
Okay, number one, from a business point of view, we all understand why they would want
Of
to make
course,
more,
that's
right?
their cash cow.
Yeah.
They've got like $6 billion in the bank thanks to these movies. So I get it. I totally get it. Because the first one was so good, and I love the first Pirates of the Caribbean
Loved
movie.
it.
Great
Every
movie.
time a new movie comes out, I hold out that hope that maybe this one will get back to that magic. Now, they just got a couple of new directors on board that a lot of us are very excited
Kon-Tiki,
about.
yeah.
Yep, the Kon-Tiki guys. Very excited about that. So, because the character is so good, and because we've seen them use him in a great movie before, I keep holding out hope that they can get back that magic. So, I will be there again opening day, like, an abused boyfriend who keeps getting mentally and verbally whipped down by his abusive girlfriend. I keep going back for more. And maybe that's the relationship I have with Pirates of the Caribbean, or maybe this one will actually be the turning of the corner. I don't know.
Nope.
The changing of the director's thing is very encouraging. That's because nobody's more responsible for how good that movie is going to be than the directors. And I think them taking a really different approach to it gives us a sign for hope. But look, I'm also not super naive. I'm a little naive, but I'm not super naive. This will probably be bad.
They're tired characters.
But I'm
at this
holding
point.
out hope. Anyway,
Less
that'll
than
do it
hope.
for us, folks. Thanks so much for joining us. Listen, if you haven't done so already, take a second and click on the subscribe button. You see, keeps you up to date on everything going on in the world of movie news, and of course, our daily AMC Movie Talk Show and our AMC Mail Bag Show. Make sure you follow us on Twitter. Make sure you follow us on Facebook. I want to thank, as always, first of all, our editor of movie news at AMC Movie News, Ms. Amy Rose Eisenbach. Amy, where can people find you online?
At Amy Rosie at all my various social networks. Thank you so much for your support.
The one and the only Aaron Darling. Aaron, where can people find you online?
Twitter, Aaron A. Darling, Facebook, Aaron Darling fan page, and of course on YouTube at Aaron Ashley D. Thanks for tuning in, guys.
And my name's John Campia. Thank you so much for joining us, folks. Until next time, my name's John for AMC Movie News, and until then, bye-bye.